What's up guys, Nolan here, and in case you haven't been keeping up, I posted a video last week talking about every single feature BSG or Nikita himself have ever said was planned to come to Escape from Tarkov, and on Friday, Nikita said this on TarkovTV.
Nolan did a big video just before, Noise Guy, just before the podcast. He did a big video consisting all of the mentioned stuff that we are shown on the different podcasts, all VIPs and everything. And there is a pretty big amount of stuff that we have in mind. And just to have AFT finally be released, we need to cut the stuff off the game, because literally it will be another several years of production. So some of the features will be moved to DLCs. Some of the features will be like deleted actually. And and actually, when we composed the release plans, we removed a lot of stuff, but we kept a lot of stuff too.
So not everything on my list from that previous video is going to end up making it to the game on launch, while some will be moved to DLC and others have been cut completely. Thankfully, Nikita took a giant chunk out of that list and confirmed a bunch of stuff on Friday, so we'll get to that stuff first. Now, this stuff takes a ridiculous amount of time and effort to keep track of over the years, so please, if you like what I'm doing or just appreciate the info, then like the video and sub for more. I really appreciate it. Now, I want to make sure that I am as clear as possible. There are three parts to this video. The first part is the stuff confirmed by Nikita just this past week. The second part is where I discuss what hasn't been confirmed yet, but what I think will still make it into the game. And the third part is what I think BSG cut for the game. The first part is happening and coming to the game soon, while the second part and third parts are speculation. Speculation of a list of features that at some point was planned for the game, but I'm trying to figure out what's still part of that plan, what's been moved to DLC, and what's been cut. When it comes to the second and third part, all of it or none of it could make it into the game. I'm trying to figure out what, and I'm giving you guys my take on it. But this is the first part. This is what's been confirmed as of Friday by Nikita. Full loadout presets were shown, so those are coming. Switching hands, aka left hand shooting, was confirmed by Nikita on Friday. Low ready and high ready for your weapon wasn't talked about, but I asked Nikita and he said it is most likely coming. I'd say it's really important for Karma to know whether someone is looking to shoot or just at you or just in general or not without having to take your knife out. All of us know right now with Scav Karma, or if you're just trying to be friendly with somebody, you usually take your knife out and you hit the wall a little bit. It's just annoying to have to do that. There should be some new system to make it easier. One way of doing that is just having your weapon lowered or maybe slung. Then we have Arena, which is canceled. Just kidding. There's a new trailer for that. It's absolutely still coming. We'll see if it pops up at the end of this series for Chronicles of Rizzi events, which by the way is still going, except it's theoretically going as fast as it can, seeing as the bandages just get sold out instantly. I messaged BSG talking to them about that, so we'll see if they end up doing something about that or not. We're not even halfway through this event, so if it doesn't speed up, then the next event will probably pop up next weekend. Helmet cams were shown in that Arena trailer and we're working. The after raid replay is confirmed to still be coming with Arena, and if it works, it'll be in the base game as well, or at least they'll attempt to bring it to the base game. The Streets boss will be coming with the next major patch, I assume the May patch, and the second Streets boss is still planned, which is assumed to be the Riot Shield boss, but not confirmed. The BTR is confirmed to be coming to Streets still. That's the BTR Taxi that we saw at the end of the last Streets trailer, or the second to last Streets trailer. Loads of skills coming confirmed. Those are for PMCs and just for the game in general. Mines are coming with the Streets boss, but we don't know if that includes the ones that we can buy and place yet. Same goes for explosives like TNT and C4. Armor rig customizations is still coming, but not along with the new armor hit zones and replaceable plates, which will be ready in the next major patch. We saw that, actually a bit of that on Friday. Loads of new extracts and types of extracts still coming, including interactive ones where you need to do a series of things to unlock it, all of which are being kept secret. Climbing over walls and vaulting is still planned, and vaulting is well underway for work in progress. We saw a bit of that already on Friday. Now to guns, the PKM, RPD, those are the belt-fed machine guns. One of those or both of those are going to be for that new Streets boss. The SVT-40, the SR3M, AK-12, AK-308, as well as the 545 and 556 variants of those AKs are all confirmed and or shown as of last Friday, and that goes for every single thing that I just mentioned since the beginning of the video. That's all newly confirmed as coming, if not already work in progress or finished finished and ready for the next patch. That is all solid. Now, based off of the rest of the list, here is what I think will make its way into the game one way or another, keeping in mind the rest of what I discuss in this video is on the chopping block. All of it or none of it can make it into the game. Starting with the Scav Life DLC and the Winter/Advanced Weather DLC, because they're already being called DLC, and because, you know, Scavs and the systems around that already work in the game, and Nikita said that they actually already had snow working in the game. These can be added pretty much whenever. I still think they're going to make their way into the game as DLC. The terminal location, I believe, will make it in before launch. I think it's going to have its place in the game as maybe a transition point between Arena and the base game, but that's speculation. Either way, I think it's going to have its place. I think it's going to be in here. PMC Karma shows up with everything that BSG does, even most recently in the Arena trailer. I can't believe they won't add it in some way, shape, or form, one way or another. It's possible BSG have given up trying to figure out a good way to implement it, though, so we'll see. And by that, I mean maybe they're going to make some tasks where you need to extract with friendly USEX or friendly bears, depending on who you are, or something like that, as opposed to a system where it's actually tracked like Scav Karma. We'll see what ends up happening with that. All traders in-game is potentially on the choppy block. That's a lot of work about the animations and location. I know that they are going to add more traders in raid only, like with Lightkeeper, but I can see them keeping some out of raid. The map-to-map travel is spicy for sure. That is the big pie in the sky, complete open world escape from Tarkov stuff. They do have a plan in place to make it so at the very least we'll have a loading screen that takes us from one map to the other instead of our hideout. So technically, one way or another, it's going to be in the game. I'm confident about that. The Black Division will be in the game, if only by name, then that's fine, but they will be in the game. BSG keeps showing off patches for them. They keep teasing them, making jokes about them, and we saw an armband that was being worked on years ago at this point. So whether it's just by name or they're physically going to be in game, Black Division is going to be in the game. Flea Market, only accessible from the Intel Center. I bet we'll make it into the game. That seems like a balanced thing that Nikita in particular would want to stay as part of the plan, and it also just makes sense. You'll need a way to communicate, so you need internet. Incendiary and gas grenades, I think will find a way into the game, but sure, they might be cut. When it comes to this stuff, it's really like, do we need that in the game? In which case, given the lore and given what Terror Group is doing, I think they're going to find a way to get the hazardous environment stuff in, which I'll talk about next. So if the effects of those hazardous environments make it into the game, I think they'll also do the gas grenades or incendiary grenades as well. And like I was just mentioning, speaking of radioactivity, chemical, and otherwise hazardous airborne environments is very important to the lore. I assume those will make their way in somehow. All the different types of breaching or breaking open doors, I assume is still planned, but I can see the blowing open doors with explosives and then shooting open doors being cut due to the work around that. Picking and prying, I bet are still solid, unless the minigame around picking was cut, in which case just prying. So if you have a crowbar or if you have the hatchet, you can stick that into the door frame and you can pry open the door. Some doors at least. At least that's how it's been explained in the past. Radios would be cool, and I bet they're necessary for some of the traders or the process of unlocking certain traders or certain ways of escaping from Tarkov, but the feature around tracking down players from static over those frequencies is probably take it or leave it for most people. I hope it stays though. Any and all guns can pop up at any time, especially in DLC, so we'll see what makes it in from the list of guns that you'll find in Contract Wars and Hired Ops and all the stuff we talked about in the past. Rocket launchers or shoulder fire launchers, those are the RPGs, the AT4s, the RPG-26, RPG-30, potentially on the chopping block. We'll see what happens with launchers, but if they're adding the BTR, which they are, I bet they're still going to add a launcher or two. We're going to need a way to eliminate that BTR, especially if it's going to have the cannon on it. Unless they remove the cannon from it, if it's just a open top kind of turret, then we won't need a launcher, so we'll see what they end up doing with that. Now, here is the stuff that I think they are going to cut, and I'll explain why for each, starting with the Clan DLC. The big thing about the Clan DLC was the group stash, along with some other stuff, but again, the big thing was the group stash, and with all the RMT BS, I think it's a headache that they don't need right now, so I bet they cut it. Town and Suburbs were said to be moved to DLC, and they still could totally be DLC, but with all the additions coming to Streets, I can see them ditching them personally. Nikita has said multiple times that Streets alone can be enough for its own game, and on Friday he confirmed the version that we have now of Streets is a third of the total size, and that could have been a mistake, as before he said it would be about a fourth of the total size, and that's the Streets that we have right now. So multiply that by 3 or 4, and that's the total plan that they have. So a lot more environment to come for Streets, which I think would make sense for them to cut Town and Suburbs. Working ladders, I bet would get cut. They'll need to worry about what's accessible from the space that you can use ladders to get up to, as well as exploits to inaccessible areas, and it can cause a lot of headaches, which if you're looking to cut stuff, I think that's one of the first things to go, especially since we're already getting vaulting. I bet they're going to cut the auction house because the Flea works just fine, so why add extras when you're looking to cut stuff for time? Maybe it shows up as DLC. Now, Ghillie Suits, I bet would be cool DLC. They could even add it with like 408 Chi-Tac, 6.8, or 300 Winchester, make it a little sniper DLC out of it, but it's something that I don't think they need in the game. So again, when you're looking to cut stuff, stuff, that's definitely going to be one of those things that you try to cut. The unconscious state and the advanced medical features around it, I bet are gone. Will be absolutely fantastic if they're not, but just think about the amount of work around the code and artwork that required in that. Not to mention ragdoll bugs, clipping bugs from dragging, bugs with picking people back up, and more could pop up. And when the current system works the way it is, it might not be something BSG is interested in pursuing when trying to cut things for time. Maybe it shows up in little bits and pieces though. We'll see. The NPC factions with the United Nations and Russian military, I bet get cut, where sure, there might be some AI manning a checkpoint here and there, or maybe instead of these invisible snipers that we get killed by whenever we go to the edge of a map, maybe those are now seen. But the systems involved with where they're a separate faction with reputations and patrols, I could see that being cut for time. And it's not necessarily the features themselves. Those on their own would be fine, but it's the headache of getting them to work with all of the other stuff in the environment. We got to remember there's scavs, there's bosses, there's the bodyguards, there's the rogues, there's the players, which they want to have 60 plus players on maps now, especially if they want to do the open world stuff. It's the headache of trying to get all of that to fit together and do it well. They might not want to do that. They might cut it. The last scene effects around radioactivity and permadeath. A lot of people hate these ideas, and maybe BSG thinks it's not worth the headache and the development cost to put them through. I will admit the stuff with addiction, it seems like Nikita's talked about that a lot, and he seems very adamant about it, so maybe they'll make their way in. But where there is a pure hatred for that kind of stuff from a lot of the community, I can see them cutting it basically. Weapon paints and spray paints for gear is take it or leave it. Would be really nice to have in the game, but when you're trying to find things to cut in order to make time, that's definitely one of those things, so that's why I could see them cutting it. Then last but definitely not least here, especially in my mind, the full release with servers that wipe and don't wipe. This is absolutely fundamental to the success of the game in the future. I could see them removing this and have it be persistent only. I have nothing from BSG or Nikita to say one way or the other, but the original plan for Escape from Tarkov back in the day was to only have persistent servers. When I think about the headaches involved with balancing the two and the split in the community, which granted, I really don't think is going to be too crazy. Also, when taken into effect, how is Arena going to tie into both of these servers? There's only going to be one Arena account, so how is it going to work for the currency that you're transferring from Arena to the base game, whether it be the persistent, which is going to have its own balance, and the periodical wipe, which is going to have its own separate balance? If we're thinking about things that are going to be cut for time, or if it's just not going to work, this is definitely one of those things. Although there really isn't a middle ground, and somebody is going to end up being properly annoyed, which is why I'd like to end this with a proper discussion. If 4 to 6 months, which is what we currently have for a wipe cycle, is too short for people that want longer wipes or don't want wipes, how long should wipes be in order to make the most people happy? A year? And that is taking into account new balancing. Sure, if you really know what you're doing, you're done with the game in a couple of weeks, but what if they put some proper balancing in somehow that really extended the early game, really extended the mid game, and if everything goes according to plan, the end game would be super difficult. So taking that into account, how long would be enough for a wipe? Let me know what you think in the comments, along with what else you think BSG might cut or maybe not cut. Because remember, directly from Nikita himself, they kept a lot of stuff, but they also cut a lot of stuff. So where there's not actually a lot of stuff left, makes you wonder. Again, remember, only the list I gave at the beginning is certain for now. The second and third lists are on the chopping block still. Let me know what you think. But that is all for today, guys. As always, like the video if you do, sub for more, check out my other channels for other games right here, follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both linked below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.